And welcome everybody to TNM Unplugged and to Zoran Todorovic Interconnected Podcast, the space when we elevate our hearts, our minds, our souls, our mega to the next level of itself. The space when you rejuvenate yourself, get inspired, and learn something new. And you know that we always have these amazing guests that are joining our podcasts. And I always say, to people, I have this amazing guest for you today. And this guest is truly amazing. I know I'm saying this to a lot of people, but Soleira Green, it's amazing because, our relationship is so beautiful. We met many, many years ago. We collaborated, we co-created together. She was one of the inspirations in my life to really get me to understand the quantum coaching, to get me to see the quantum coaching for what it really is, to get me to understand how the energy really works. And she was a beautiful, empowering force in my life. And I'm so grateful and honored to share Soleira's wisdom and knowledge with you as well today. So let me tell you a little bit more about Soleira. Soleira is a quantum coach. She is future innovator and she's a alchemical creator. Back in 2003, she wrote the book, The Alchemical Coach, and this book has been used to teach evolutionary coaching throughout the world at that time through evolutionary coaching, and then it carried on through TNM coaching as well. She is very passionate about quantum evolution for all of us. She's also passionate about how we put our genius into action, how we become the new. She's expert in consciousness innovation, in genius activation, in infinite intelligence, which is something completely new that she's cooking right now. She has wrote more than 10 books on these topics, and she is somebody who is really on the edge of our conscious evolution. So she is amazing, amazing being, fantastic woman, great teacher, amazing coach, fantastic consultant, and so on and so forth. And in today's podcast, we're going to be focusing on quantum coaching, but we'll be kind of mapping different territories of quantum coaching. We're going to talk about how can we witness our magnificence. We're also going to talk about how can we tap into the infinite intelligence. We're also going to look into how can we activate possibilities in the quantum field? How can we source spontaneous transformation? And how can you find your role in quantum evolution for the entire humanity, for all of us? So, Soleira, welcome to the call.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Yeah, brilliant.
So to start warming up, because we want to cover a lot of topics, so tell me, from your perspective, what is quantum coaching for you and how would you define it? How would you share it? What do you want to say about that terminology of quantum coaching?
Well, for me, quantum coaching is taking people to places they didn't know they could go. I think I said to you the other day, the unknown is where all the power is, and it's like being able to take someone to, you just said, witness their magnificence, see them already amazing in so many ways, and then elevate that to a whole other level. And that can be done. Why I call it quantum, it's more like quantum leaping kind of thing. So quantum coaching is being able to take quantum leaps into who you are, what you're up to, how you get fulfilled in the world, and in years past, I've called it sometimes visionary coaching, sometimes evolutionary coaching, sometimes transformative coaching. And I think that's all it's all leading up to what I would now call quantum coaching. I still do lots of practical stuff too, like I can do it on any level with people, but there's a moment when you're with someone and you can feel it. This is more of it's an energetic sensory experience as a coach where you find yourself like being called forth. Your back gets straighter, something starts to flow and burst from you. And I think that's where you're getting ready to activate who that person and being is into something more of themselves. And to me, that's just one of the most delightful things you can possibly do, is to take somebody to a next level of themselves, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, you know, a lot of the coaching terminology and techniques and tools and skills, they always focus on coaching personality self or coaching self, right? And sometimes we know in order to be able to advance further in evolution of self, we need to go beyond that, right? We need to begin seeing people as much more than they see themselves to be. So how, with this activation that you are, you know, kind of doing within the quantum coaching, how does that work? How do we move somebody from perceiving themselves as I'm a human being, I'm bubbling along in my life, and this is me, Zoran, relating to Solira right now, into me seeing or witnessing myself as something much bigger?
Well, first of all, I'd start by not seeing them as they think they are. A lot of people think they have history, they have issues, they have identity, they have personalities. And what I do is kind of loosen all those boxes because they're really frames for people. So the first thing I do when I'm with them is see them vastly almost. And I'm not talking about something high and out there. I'm talking about something present and new, something exciting and exhilarating right here, right now, that we can unleash our genius, access mastery, do things we didn't know we could do. And inside people, there's a unique essence. And that unique essence will always show up in the flavor of genius, in the flavor of, you know, what they're going to be up to. So that's always there, but there's a loosening of an identity. And when you loosen your identity, you stop putting so much attention on self. What happens is this joy bursts out of you, and this natural kind of expansion happens. And you begin to discover that you will first walk around as kind of like a radiant presence that is a transformative, even transcendent influence on other people. You don't have to say anything. It just happens. You know those kind of people, right? Like you just meet them and you feel uplifted and elevated. So that would be my first step, that witnessing magnificence, loosening the identity. And then it's like, what's the possibility of you? What haven't you dreamed yet into existence in your life? What some people might say, what does the universe want of you? I suppose that's a way of looking at it. But I do believe it's that we are becoming real source creators of our own lives, our own creation, our own purposes, our own fulfillment in life. And so it's a bit of a paradox, because you could say, well, what do you want to become? But it's more than that. It's what does the universe want of you? What does evolution want of you? What does the earth and humanity want of you? What's possible? And one of the things when you look at visionary coaching is that people think it means taking on a big vision or project. And that can feel quite burdensome to people. Like, that's so big. How do I do that? This is quite different from that. What you take on that would fulfill you, you could literally never leave your couch if you wanted to. There's such a different relationship with consciousness, with the quantum field, with the earth, with all of humanity, there's a completely different focus. You have a much more expansive relationship with what I would call the quantum field. The quantum field being where the new possibilities of us are waiting. They're there waiting for us. Same as genius ideas exist in the quantum field as well. So as a writer, like I'm always plucking stuff out of the genius field and like bringing my own genius to the fore and then marrying the two and, you know, bringing it forth. But when you're looking at, let's call it a greater purpose might be a way to say it, but I'd prefer to say your role in the greater game of us all.
That's lovely. Your role in that greater game of us all. I love the game as well, you know, and finding that role, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you get to this level, there's so much joy in it. It's like you notice, I used to be really serious and significant. You'll remember that. And I'm not anymore. And you get to this level and this joy just kind of bursts forth in you. And that joy is also when you're working as a quantum coach with someone, it's not a heavy experience. It's not a tedious experience. It's not a long experience. It tends to go like there. You can see them coming into the new levels of themselves. And when that happens, the biggest thing they have to master is not bringing their old self back into the conversation. Because a lot of people will do that. They'll go, oh yeah, I get it. Yes, I get this is what I could be. And then they'll draw back who they think they are, or what they think is going on, or some history or something like that. And, let me just say that I absolutely believe we can supersede all that. That there's a place where you go beyond the identity, the history, the experience at any level, whether that was good or traumatic or whatever. I absolutely believe and have taken many people through what they might consider to be a traumatic, lifelong influencing event to go, oh, I get it. Yes. Okay. I'm past it now. I don't have to carry it with me and let it shape and define me. I can be okay with it and find my way forward with it in terms of what it's giving me to bring forth, So yeah.
So it's an unleashing ourselves in a way that we really connect to that bigger and wider part of ourselves. And I love what you're sharing, that not getting back into that identity, because for me it's just a habit, or maybe it's an addiction to your own old self, and being able to let go of that and step into the new self. It's really important. And what you also mentioned is great, that people moving into that greater purpose and gain of life, when they become more at service to others through being able to be at service to self. So what is the bigger game of my life in service to humanity, in service to planet Earth, in service to universe consciousness, and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah. And that has to have joy in it. If it doesn't have joy, it used to be you could take on something big and carry it a little bit heavy and fulfill amazing things. But the energy, the consciousness, the reality of life has altered. I would say that a good number of us have created an alteration in it. And now if you carry any heaviness, that comes back at you. If you know what it's not about issues. It's not that. It's that if you think that something's heavy and going to take a long time, what we hold manifests instantly. Now, everybody's got to see that now, right? And that's brilliant. In my own life, I now have a kind of effortless business, effortless abundance, effortless opportunities. I hardly even have to go, oh, it'd be nice if. I don't even have to do that. It just shows up now for me. And I think that's because I'm not just a person running a business, doing good things. I'm a field of possibility. And that's really changed. And our physicality is now able to hold that in a very different way. So let me slide into infinite intelligence for a minute and how that's a part of this kind of thing. So I think when you're being with someone, there's an art to knowing what they could yet become, but have no idea of. So, in coaching, they would say the client has all the answers within. And I say, no, the unknown for both of us is where the brilliant movement and power is. And so infinite intelligence for me is a connection to, let's call it the universe, whatever you want to call it. I'm not attached to terms at all. But I have discovered over the last 25 years that if I want to know something, I just have to ask. If I want to see what someone can become, I just have to orient. And this information comes towards me. It comes out of the field, and I can ask questions and get insights. I can help to suss pathways of is this pathway better for you than this? It's not about predicting anything for people. It's more about, there are some pathways that have grace all over them, and there are other pathways that are going to be a little hard. So I kind of use the infinite intelligence to help people see, oh, let's choose the easy one. let's choose the fun one, the gracious one, the powerful one that just will manifest so quickly, as opposed to have to work hard and push through it for years and years and years, you know? So I use the infinite intelligence quite a lot in my life, in my work, in everything, really. It's become such a practical thing for me. Whereas I think when I began, it was more like something I would do occasionally. And now it's just embedded in me, and it's all my decisions in life are made from that place, from that understanding.
And for the people who are learning from you right now and listening to this, how can they access this infinite intelligence and start practicing and learning and be relating to it? Because for some people, this is completely new. You know, they're not, some people never thought about it. Everybody knows it exists on a deeper level, but they don't give conscious attention to it. So,
well, a lot of people talk about intuition, but that's kind of like an inner sense of movement. I'm talking about plugging into the field, the universe, the something greater. And it's not empathy, because empathy would be plugging into more like the vibration of people's emotions and stuff. There's a greater field. And when it's like taking the computer, you've heard me say this before, and plugging it into the internet. It's kind of like that. And it used to be I would plug in and then I come back to normal, I plug in. Now it's just a full streaming thing all the time for me.
yes.
So I don't have to so much work to go find things. It just comes at me as a knowing. There is, you know, and there is both an inner knowing of things that people have that's a little different from intuition. Knowing has a little bit more substance to it. When you know something, you kind of get a download of why and what and all of that. Whereas intuition is more like, you know, go this way, that way. So, but infinite intelligence is having complete understanding of what's going on and why on multiple levels. So it's not just, oh, there's this person and they could fulfill their potential, which already exists in them. It's more like, whoa, what's possible? And when you look at what's possible for people, who could they be? What could they contribute to the evolution of us all? Because I happen to think this is like a time like no other, in a great way. And I know there's a lot of people that think, oh, the world's falling apart, right?
Yeah.
And to some degree, it does look like that some days. But if you come into the whole world of energy, consciousness, reality creation, all of that, you see a completely different thing happening. And where I'm looking to work with people is, okay, if you are an awesome infinite being here on Earth with something to contribute that's like huge, let's go. If they're willing, you know, let's go. Let's see what yours is and how you would bring that with joy and ease into the reality for everyone.
And I love that you're bringing element joy and ease and the joyfulness, that energy is driving that expression of what is yours to give at this moment in time on the planet Earth, and finding that out. So can people plug into the infinite intelligence themselves, or do they need guidance to begin with?
Oh, no, I think a lot of people are already doing it. It's interesting because when we first started, like 20 years ago, when we were teaching some of this stuff, right? I think it took more effort and practice to do it. And I'm not saying that that doesn't help now, but because at that point, like all of the consciousness we were working with was there, out there. And now it's all right here.
around
the
us.
new version of reality, the elevated consciousness, the evolution of us all. It's all right. It's already set in motion in the air around us, in our relationship with the earth, with nature, with animals, with the universe, literally. And so it becomes something that's becoming kind of natural and instinctive with people. And what I find when I'm trying to get people to do that, the first thing they'll say is, oh, I don't see things, I don't hear things, I don't get things. And what I would say is never say that. What you believe will manifest instantly.
Exactly. What you believe manifests instantly, especially right now. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very quickly these days, like within minutes now. And so I keep saying to them, don't say that. Just be open, just play, just see what comes. And, then it just kind of naturally unfolds and shows up in you with an ease and a flow. I like to talk about the flow state now. It's one of my phrases. The flow state is where you're connected to something grander, bigger, more awesome. Like, call it the force. From Star
I love the
Wars.
force. Yeah. I love the force. Everybody can relate to it. If you call it the force.
Well, there is the force. It does exist.
Yes.
And when you get connected and expansive, then the force starts to flow through you. And it brings amazing energy, vitality, alchemical activation that you can, by the very nature of your presence, activate something in the field and the physicality of someone that will just naturally elevate them to the next level of themselves. That's where I would call that spontaneous transformation, or even sometimes spontaneous transcendence. And I don't mean transcendence like, oh, gone from the earth. I mean, you come to an elevated version of yourself. And the thing that seems to keep most people from it is some belief about themselves as a human being. And so I'm writing a book called Becoming Infinite. because I think it's about being here, right here, fully present, but fully expansive and connected, and able to walk around as what I call an alchemical activator. So when I say alchemical, I'm talking about ALL, all chemical, as opposed to the single L of how we know that. Because when you can let go of identity, you can become the field. You can become the whole thing. And then when you're being with someone and you've witnessed their magnificence and you've seen what's possible for them, there's an activation that can happen. And I would almost describe it like in the field and in their field, their energy field. They're like quantum bubbles of possibility. And the activation does this. Like it just opens up. And those things might be equated as talents, mastery, capacity, joy, genius, ideas, visions. It's not like I'm looking specifically to do one thing. I become an alchemical activator. And what happens is that people say they experience that as, oh my gosh, I feel so different. I feel so alive. I feel so present. I feel so ready to go. And then we have conversations about how they're going to give what there is for them to contribute in fun ways. I love innovation.
Innovation, self-innovation of everything.
Well, I got a bunch of passions, but innovation is one of them. And I think once you get someone to get past the identity, the sense of self, as a frame, and then you get them to expand and connect and discover who they are, and you activate this new possibility of them. Then the job is, well, how are you going to do that? And And let's find the ways that are the easiest, the most fun, the most gracious, the most collaborative, the most exciting, that light you up, wake you up out of bed in the morning, and as opposed to, oh, this is a big project and I have to do this and I have a whole to-do list. And
Yes.
Yeah. I
And
don't
many
even have to-do lists anymore.
That's amazing. Many people struggle with that. Many people struggle because people get stuck into this, not being activated on the alchemical level, allowing the force to work through them and help them out be able to accomplish a lot with ease, grace, and also to activate their new abilities as a result of being able to be connected to that field.
I've discovered that
into this human. Yeah, go ahead.
I've discovered that most people have mastery inside them that they're completely unaware of, or they might have known they had when they were kids, but they suppressed it over time, because education and all that stuff, right? But once that mastery is unleashed, holy jumping, they can do stuff that is, I did this workshop in Australia about 4 or 5 years ago, and I called it the miraculous body. And at the beginning of the workshop, I said, well, I can access the miraculous sometimes. And the woman beside me said, oh, I can access it all the time. And so I went, oh, wow, that's fantastic. Okay, 13 women were in the room. How many of you are like her? 7 put up their hands. So now we had a whole different workshop going, right? And we used their own mastery, their own experience. They all did it differently. And we created the new consciousness for the miraculous to be easy on earth. And that was the end result, rather than I was going to teach them something. And it's at that point that I kind of realized, oh my gosh, there's so much mastery in people. I don't want to say, do it this way, do it that way. Because, oh my gosh, look at this and look at this and look at this once that mastery is unleashed. So now I do more collaborative, co-creative work with people where I'm just sourcing the space for their mastery, their genius, their, infinite creations to come to the fore. And then we do what I call genius fusion. And we create together something that none of us would have expected if each one of us just did a separate thing.
Exactly.
So I call it collaborative genius fusion.
It's like a jamming genius fusion session. So I know that you're also passionate about that genius, and sometimes when I teach genius and I say to people, you are a creative genius, what I'm witnessing is that there is this big misbelief that I'm not. There are only selected few, only celebrated celebrities or big artists, great creators. Only few people are there and everybody else is mediocre and in the field, never able to realize the genius. And I see that word is so challenging for people to accept, right? To say to oneself, I am a creative genius takes a lot. Yes. What is your experience? Because you love geniusness.
I spent 3 years studying, researching, and teaching genius with people. And I found the same thing. But then I began to talk about it as Genius 1.0 is prodigies. You're born with it, and there's only a few. Genius 2.0 is artists, musicians, writers, dancers, the creative people. Genius 3.0 is everybody has genius in them. And so I worked on that through a book, through teaching people, through, bringing it conscious, that kind of thing. And I would say now it's relatively easy now to bring it forth. They still do go, who me a bit at first. But once you get past that, and once you realize that it's not big-headedness, everybody attaches it to big-headedness, and it's just not. It's a natural expression of your own passion, creativity, purpose. It just flows from you. And then when you connect that with the genius from the quantum field, now you get, whoa, wowzers of stuff coming through. That's what, like, I can write a book in 2-3 weeks now. And it is me writing it, but it's not me writing it at the same time. I kind of watch the words form in awe.
In front of your eyes.
You know, and the thing is, for me, because writing is mine, that's what I love to do. For me, it's don't edit. As the flow is moving through you, don't edit. If you edit, you get in the way of it. So you let the flow come through and you marry it with your own unique passion and contribution. And then you let it surprise you. You watch it unfold. That's most of the people I know who paint or are photographers or dancers. There's a surrender to it. It has nothing to do with big-headedness. It's not like, oh, I'm a genius. You know, it's not. It's more like, oh my gosh, there is genius in the universe and it's wanting to come through me. And I can bring what I have and what it has together and create something that has impact. Because I find when you put those two things together, it's not just impact, it's not just influence. It's deeply, profoundly stirring. It puts an element to it that's where you see the like great writers, great poets, great dancers, because they've surrendered to this, whatever it is coming through them. Maybe a dancer surrenders to the music, maybe a poet surrenders to the majesty of words, maybe, do you see what I mean? It's kind of like that. And that's kind of a way you can live life. It's not just like
a moment of expression of your creative self, but you know what you're saying is this is how we can live consistently.
Oh yeah, all the time.
We are, and all the time. And this is exactly this new earth or the new consciousness or the new reality that we're creating when we can be in that state all the time. Let's not even say most of our time, all the time.
Yeah. And you can feel the difference when you're in flow, when you're expanded, when you're in what I call the high vibe. Like there's a kind of ebullience and vitality in you that gives you that radiant presence, right? And when you're in that state, everything occurs differently. It's so amazing. Even when you watch the things in the world, it gives you access to a level of source creational power. Like, so for example, if I was concerned about the climate, for example, then what I do is I go connect with the earth and nature and activate and accelerate its miraculousness. Or if I'm watching the climate conference going on here in the UK at the moment, then I would be sourcing a space for breakthroughs to occur. So whereas if I drop into a lower vibe and I get concerned and upset about it and think, you know, we're all,
you're in danger. Yeah, you have worry, concern, anxiety.
then I have no ability other than to maybe be an activist, which is a good thing too for some people. But in this other space of reality, I have access to bring my own gifts and creation and power to it turning out. And I suppose in a simple way, you could say, you know, people know when they're training or coaching, they're sourcing the space for someone. And when you're sourcing the space for someone, you can feel the difference. The flow is different, the ideas, the conversation pops. There's lots of ideas, there's an energy to it. It's the same thing I'm talking about when you be with the earth, you be with the, you know, the COP26 conference that's happening at the moment, whatever it is. Even if it's a country, if it's a business, if it's an idea, you can be with it in an exciting, exhilarating place that allows you to activate a new possibility for it. And to me, that's the way I want to live my life. Every minute, the whole time, I don't want to be in and out of it. And I found in the last year and a half, it's consistent for me now. I don't drop out anymore.
So let's kind of get a little bit more practical, because towards the end of the podcast, we usually give people some things to practice and to kind of anchor the knowledge, the wisdom, the knowingness that you've shared so far. So I know we have a diversity of listeners. Some people are much more advanced than the other people, meaning in their evolution, in their life journeys, and so on and so forth. So in order for somebody to access this infinite intelligence, to connect to the force, to allow the force to work through them, to surrender into that part of their bigger self beyond the boxes that we discussed so far.
Yeah.
What will be something that you would invite our audience or people who are listening to try, to practice, to,
Okay.
play with, and we can even do it together, whatever it's easier for you, however it's easier for you to share. It's just for us to kind of give something to people, because I can feel the field palpitating. Tell us how we do this. We get it. Just give us a little bit more tips. How do we do this?
Okay. So you'd start by, you just take a deep breath. Okay. And then think of something you absolutely love, not a person, like chocolate and beaches and standing on mountains and aurora borealises and flowers, whatever. Think of something you love and let that kind of the thrill of that, the rush of that kind of burst through you. And you kind of get into the experience of you're in that experience. And what you'll find as you do that, you'll find that your energy is opened up, you've expanded out. Even Zoran, you closed your eyes and you did this. A smile came on your face, you expanded, you connected. It's almost an instantaneous thing. And why I use that example is it brings you into the higher vibe space of reality. Okay, so now you've done that. Then you make a relationship with whatever it is you want to. Is it the earth? Is it nature? Is it the universe? Is it the infinite? Is it, whatever? And you make your relationship with it. And that's kind of like plugging in, but it's not so literal, like boom, boom. It's like, and you be in the awe and wonder of that relatedness. And you can feel it, can't you? There's a flow start. Your fingers start to get a little tingly. There's a flow of energy starts to come through. You can feel it. I can feel it through my whole body. The field starts to spark. Because when you brought up what you loved, you started to activate the field. Okay, so now the next piece would be, can I just look for you for a minute at the next level? What would that be? Just for fun. I know you're already way up there doing stuff, so but I'll just show people how to do it. Okay.
Yeah, of course, go ahead.
So here we go. Okay, I got it. I sense it. I sort of know what it is. And I'm trying to see how would that show up. So I'm trying to get a whole bunch of stuff really fast for you. So I'll just tell you what I got so far. I have always known you are a super consciousness guy, like big time, right? You know that, don't you? Yeah. And it's like it's the beating heart of the universe for you. You almost are the beating heart of this. And I saw a video the other day with someone who said consciousness is more real than reality. And I thought, yeah, well, now we're getting there. Okay, it's not like something out there, some weird thing out there. It's the air we breathe. It's the excitement we manifest. It's the connection with life and the flow and the genius and all of it, right? And I think that you have this next possibility of taking that to a whole other level of reality for people, like moving consciousness from what we think conscious. A lot of people I was on a call with some futurists a while back. They were talking about AI, which is I happen to love. And somebody asked about what does it mean? What's consciousness? And this woman said to be consciously aware. I thought, oh my God, no. That was their expert on consciousness. They had no idea that that's not what consciousness is. That's like a very low level of it. Consciousness is the thriving, beating potentiality, possibilities of the universe in creation, trying to get our attention constantly. It's like a morphing playground of creation that is becoming our reality. And I think you have the potential to take that conversation about consciousness into reality for people. And what I was just trying to get was like, how will you do that? But it was elusive a little bit for me. So, yeah.
It's elusive for me as well, because it's forming in a way. If you look deeper, probably it'll pop up. Or if we really ask the field to tell us how is that going to happen. Absolutely.
Do you want me to look? Do we have time?
Yeah. I think that's a great experience for our listeners.
You can see that what I did was just because I knew it was there for reason. It was elusive for reasons, and I had to have a conversation and then get a yes in order for it not to be elusive anymore. So that I'm just explaining that to other people. I know you know that. Okay, so let me just see if we were looking at the possibility of innovating that approach. How would you do that with your uniqueness, your genius, your mastery? Okay, here we go. It's about reality creation. And because I know with you, it's got to have this real practical application at the same time. And it is the mastery of reality creation. And that makes sense for you, doesn't it?
That's 100% completely, yes.
Because you're already living it, you're already doing it, you're already teaching that. Yeah. This is just it's more like an advanced level of the mastery of reality creation, and not just our own reality. Because a lot of people think reality creation is how to get my life to work. I think reality creation is how do we get the world to work? And the universe and all of it. Like it's a consciousness gives us that expansive possibility. Does that?
Yes, 100%. It resonates. It landed also for the audience. It's when you pinged it through the words, it really has a strong resonance inside of the body physically, but also it feels right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the key to the infinite intelligence. When you're coaching with someone, like I said, I could get this image, this sense, this feel of it. I knew what it was. It's informing me through imagery and sensory data. But then to get the expression, then I have to start to hear words and get understanding and see pathways. And you could see how quickly that comes. It was immediate. The minute I just asked the question, how will he express this? It's the mastery of reality creation.
Wow.
It's there. The possibility of us is there. And you would know that. Yeah. You kind of know that. And you're kind of doing it, but it's at a whole other advanced level. You probably have people in your network who would go, sign me up.
Exactly. And that's the clue. Sign me up. Solira, this was wonderful, wonderful experience. I just want to let people know as we're wrapping that Solira is going to run the Infinite Intelligence Webinar on November 15 and December 10th, 2021. We will post all the details to Solira's website in the description of this podcast and also YouTube channel, so you can register and benefit from Solira's beautiful wisdom, knowledge, and her presence and beingness. Solira, I mean, we can talk for hours.
We sure can.
We can talk for hours. And thank you so much for being with us here today. You know, we could feel the palpitation of the quantum field elevating us all through your presence and activation. So I'm very grateful to you on behalf of listeners. And I'm sure we're going to record more of these wonderful conversations. Thank you so much for sharing and being.
Thanks for having me.
Bye for now. Enjoy this podcast. More to come next week. Lots of love to everybody. Bye for now.